You were born sometime in the 21st century, a time when the world is more connected than ever. But don't get too excited. Your first moments are a blur of bright hospital lights, the sound of muffled voices, and the metallic smell of antiseptic. You cry, but no one really hears you. Why? Because your parents are too busy holding up a smartphone, documenting your first seconds for an Instagram post captioned, "Welcome to the world, little star." The likes are rolling in before you've even taken your first nap. This is your introduction to life as a human. Even your birth is content for the internet. The first few years of your life are a constant battle for attention. At first, it's cute. Your parents dress you up like a doll, parading you around family gatherings and snapping 100 photos just to get that perfect shot for Facebook. But soon, the pressure starts to creep in. You're barely walking, and already your milestones are being turned into metrics. She walked at 10 months. Hashtag prodigy baby. Or his first words were mama hashtag blessed. It's not about you really. It's about the likes, the comments, the validation. You are too young to realize it, but your life is being measured in emojis and algorithms before you'd even know how to spell. As you grow a little older, you start to notice the world isn't as magical as you once thought. The kids around you aren't just playing tag or building blocks, they're competing. Who has the coolest lunchbox? Who's wearing the latest sneakers? And then there's you, staring at your plain, no-logo shoes, wondering why your parents couldn't just buy the ones with the flashing lights like everyone else. It's your first taste of societal pressure, a silent whisper that says you're only worth as much as what you have. You're too young to understand what consumerism means, but deep down, it starts to plant a seed of inadequacy. Fast forward a few years, and now you're in school, a place that's supposedly designed to nurture and prepare you for the real world, but often feels like a battlefield. You quickly realize that grades are everything, not because you care about learning, but because they're the currency of approval. You're either the kid with the gold star, basking in fleeting praise, or the one sitting in dread as your test paper with a big red D is handed back. Add to that the cliques, the bullies, and the relentless pressure to fit in. If you're not athletic, popular, or funny enough, you're just another invisible face in the cafeteria. And let's not forget social media creeping into the mix, scrolling through perfect photos of classmates at fancy birthday parties or vacations you weren't invited to. It's like FOMO on steroids. You start asking yourself, why is everyone else's life so much cooler than mine? By the time you hit your teenage years, the stakes somehow get even higher. Now it's not just about surviving school. It's about navigating the hormonal hurricane that has turned your body and brain into a complete mess. Suddenly, every pimple feels like the end of the world, and every crush is a potential soulmate. You find yourself questioning your identity, trying on different versions of you, like outfits in a fitting room, hoping one will finally fit. But it never does. Social media is no longer just a highlight reel of others' lives. It's a full-blown performance arena. Likes, comments, and shares become the currency of self-worth. You post a picture, then refresh obsessively, heart sinking with every minute that passes without a notification. And when you see someone else living their best life, it's hard not to wonder, why can't I be like that? Why does my life feel so ordinary? Adulthood hits like a freight train, and suddenly you're thrust into a world that's far less forgiving than you imagined. The dreams you clung to as a child, becoming an astronaut, a rock star, or even just happy, are now clouded by the harsh reality of bills, deadlines, and never-ending responsibilities. You land your first job, thinking it'll bring you freedom, but instead, it feels like shackles. The 9-to-5 grind sucks the life out of you, leaving little room for the hobbies and passions you once held dear. Meanwhile, everyone on social media seems to be killing it. A former classmate just bought a house, another started a business, someone else is posting photos from Bali while you're trying to figure out how to make instant noodles seem exciting for the third night in a row. The constant comparison gnaws at your confidence. Your 20s, the supposed prime of your life, often feel like a race you're losing before you've even tied your shoes. As the years roll on, the weight of expectations becomes unbearable. Society keeps handing you a checklist, a stable career, a perfect partner, a house, kids, and maybe even a dog. You try to tick them off, but every box feels like a burden. If you're single, people ask when you'll settle down. If you're married, they ask when you'll have kids. And if you do have kids, well, congratulations. Now you're navigating sleepless nights, skyrocketing expenses, and the terrifying responsibility of raising a human being in a world that feels increasingly chaotic. Social media doesn't make it easier. Moms on Instagram make parenting look like a breeze with perfectly styled kids and spotless homes. Meanwhile, you're just trying not to step on a Lego while reheating last night's dinner. The highlight reels of others magnify your struggles, making you question if you're doing enough, earning enough, or just enough. Every like, comment, and share seems to measure your worth, yet no amount of validation ever feels satisfying. Midlife is like a chaotic intersection where everything converges: career, family, finances, and dreams you quietly put on hold. You're stuck between trying to climb the corporate ladder and managing a household that sometimes feels like a zoo. Your parents, once your pillars of support, now need you to care for them. And then there's your health. Your body starts sending you subtle warning signs. A persistent aching here, a gray hair there. You shrug it off, telling yourself you'll deal with it later, even though deep down you know later is creeping up fast. And then there's the dreaded career plateau. You're no longer the fresh talent full of promise, but not quite ready to retire. Promotions are harder to come by, and younger colleagues with fresh ideas and seemingly boundless energy start to outshine you. It feels like you're running a race where the finish line keeps moving farther away. The pressure to have it all intensifies. Your friends post about their exotic vacations, their dream homes, their entrepreneurial successes. Meanwhile, you're stuck in traffic, scrolling through their updates, wondering if you took a wrong turn somewhere. It's not just envy, it's the nagging feeling that everyone else has figured out the secret to life, and you're still fumbling for the instruction manual. The emotional toll of midlife hits harder than any physical strain. The weight of years spent juggling responsibilities, never quite meeting everyone's expectations, starts to erode your sense of self. You begin to question your choices. Did you take the right job? Should you have married sooner? Did you sacrifice your dreams for a conventional path? Every decision, every missed opportunity feels amplified, and the quiet whisper of doubt becomes a constant companion. Social media doesn't help. Everyone else seems to be thriving, living their best lives, while you're stuck in the daily grind, silently fighting to keep up. As you approach later years, a subtle shift occurs. The ambition that once fueled you starts to give way to reflection. You find yourself looking back more often than forward, revisiting memories both cherished and painful. Regrets you buried long ago resurface. Relationships you let slip away. Risks you were too afraid to take. Dreams you quietly abandoned. Yet, amidst the nostalgia, there's a strange sense of clarity. You realize how much of your life was spent chasing validation, approval, and success as defined by others. The constant need to prove yourself, especially through the lens of social media, now feels hollow. In this later stage of life, you start to reevaluate everything with a new perspective. The relentless pursuit of external validation fades, and what remains is a quiet acceptance of who you are, flaws and all. Yet this doesn't come without its own challenges. The comparison game still lingers, but now it's more internal than external. You start measuring yourself against your own life, how much you've grown, how much you've learned, and how much you've truly experienced. But it's also hard to shake the feeling that some opportunities are now closed off. Social media, once a tool for connection, now feels like a mirror reflecting all the things you haven't done. You scroll through the highlight reels of others' trips, new businesses, achievements, and wonder if it's too late for you. The fear of missing out on a fulfilled life persists, even as you try to embrace the present. In your final years, the pressure to achieve and compare to others finally dissipates, replaced by a profound search for peace. You begin to cherish small, simple moments, spending time with loved ones, savoring quiet evenings, and letting go of past regrets. The noise of social media and societal expectations no longer dominate your thoughts. Instead, you find solace in just being. But even then, there's a lingering question. Did you live your life for yourself, or was it always about fulfilling someone else's idea of success? The truth is, you've been through a lifetime of pressure, comparisons, and insecurities, all while the world around you constantly shifted. And as you reflect, you realize that while the validation of others may have shaped parts of your journey, it's your own validation, your acceptance of who you are, that will truly define the legacy you leave behind. It's not about likes, shares, or comments anymore. It's about the quiet satisfaction of knowing you live, love, and experience it all in your own way. And so, as the chapters of your life come to a close, you realize that the only approval you truly needed was your own. The highs, the lows, the milestones, and the missteps, they were all part of your unique journey. You may have been influenced by the world's standards, by the filters and algorithms, but in the end, you discover that life isn't measured in likes, shares, or accolades. It's about the quiet moments of self-awareness, the peace you find in accepting yourself, and the love you give and receive along the way. The journey was never about keeping up. It was always about finding your own pace, your own purpose, and realizing that you were always enough.